Well, you're welcome. To the barber shop. You're welcome. To the barber shop.
Barbershop Podcast, episode number 241, coming to you live from Boxo Studio, in the shadow of the great Hamilton Mountain, showcasing the very best in live original music and musicians, as we do each and every week. In the great city of Hamilton, Ontario, the blast furnace of such things, the hot spot. It's where you want to be. They say you can't swing a cat without hitting a great musician in Hamilton, and I've swung a few cats, and, you know, it's true. Ryan Cannon, Gary Greenland, great to see you guys as usual, controlling things in the control room. What a fantastic September we've had. Isn't it crazy? It's like, does nobody want to talk?
No, I haven't picked up my mic in a while. Yeah, it's been beautiful.
It's been lazy, hazy, crazy days of late summer. Everyone's enjoyed it. Wednesdays continue to showcase some crazy original cats. Last week was no exception with the Golden Beaver. We probably go 180 degrees, swing back to the thoughtful, the balanced, the opined, the intelligent. That is Ben Bowen, tonight's guest. Ben Bowen is a singer-songwriter and a musician specializing in kids' music, although he has all kinds of musical creds and has been here, there, and everywhere. He is, of course, a friend of the show, a friend of so many people in this music community, and it's great to finally have him here on Barbershop Podcast. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's Wednesday. You often go and go to the Dundas Music Festival or Music Collective. They'll have a Wednesday night open stage. Do you go out to these sort of things?
I went to that one for a solid year and a half, and I started doing open mics when my marriage broke up, and so I had a lot of really great dark material. Those were not kid songs I was writing,
right.
So I wrote a lot of like painful, angsty stuff I probably should have written in college.
Yeah.
And then things got better, and I stopped writing so many songs. I wrote a lot of kids songs, but they don't really work at open mics.
Yeah.
So I've been back in the last little while. I've got some friends of mine and I have put together a Rio Statics tribute band, so we keep going and trying out our Rio's material there.
Right, fantastic. When you do kids songs, what's the process as far as bouncing it off of other people? Obviously, if you're writing these dark songs, there's always a room that loves, because that's that's what people sign up for when they come in.
Yeah.
But kids song, it's hard to get. How do you do? Do you just trust yourself, or do you have a core group of people?
My core group of people is my 5-year-old son and my 10-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
They're the ones who I can bounce things off, and they can tell me whether or not they like them. But I also try out songs in class all the time. So I teach 10 classes a week to kids between 4 months and about 5 and 6 years of age. And I can tell whether a song's going to work. So I tried to do one, for instance, based on Pachelbel's Canon about a year and a half ago, and it bombed. Like, I tried it in one class and it really didn't work, and so I was able to throw it out. And there are the things that I try and they sort of work, so I tweak them. And so I guess my sounding board is little kids more than anything.
And it's true, they don't have a filter. It's hard for them to lie or see a reason why they would.
Yeah, it's one of those funny things about musicians that we are so positive, like we're so affirming of each other to a fault, that we sometimes are not great at telling each other how to improve or how to make it's something sound better.
Yeah. And it's an intangible often, and it's an elusive thing, to chase it. But you know it, like art, you know it when you see it. Music, you know it when you hear it. Well, what was your early influence? What was your introduction to music? Did you have a musical family, or were you someone who ran?
I have a fairly musical family. My mom played piano when she was a teenager, and my dad played guitar when I was a kid. But they're both university profs, so they really haven't kept up with playing music. My dad taught me What Do You Do with a Drunken Sailor? That was my first ever guitar song. I was about 10.
Well, a lot of our fathers taught us what to do with a drunken sailor, but we don't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. So 2 chords, right?
Yeah.
And from there, I was in, like, we went to church when I was a kid, so I sang a lot. My dad's Welsh, so they're big singers. And my parents were in the choir when I was a kid. And then I took Orff and did recorder, and I kind of had guitar in the background. And then I started listening to Bruce Cockburn records and trying to lift stuff. Yeah. Like lift Bruce Cockburn tunes. And that's really where my guitar playing took off.
And going into a finger picking style, was that something you aspired to, or did you just have a natural affinity for it?
That's a good question. I don't think that it was on purpose. It lent itself really well to the sadder songs that I was doing. And I was definitely picking it up from the Cockburn records. The stuff that, the early Cockburn stuff, the late 70s Cockburn stuff is all just acoustic. Before Humans and Dancing in the Dragon's Jaws, when he got electric, all of that early Sunwheel Dance and Salt, Sun and Time were things that I was trying to pick up. And so it was just the stuff that I was listening to. I thought, how do I do that? So I'd get my fingers under it.
Yeah. And it is an evolution. You have to be tough on yourself, but kind to yourself at the same time while you're building up your chops.
Well, I was obsessive. Like I had things on record and on tape, and I would sit, and go back 3 seconds and 3 seconds and figure it out and figure it out and figure it out. And it was nice because there was nobody. I never took lessons on guitar, so there was nobody who was saying you have to do this or practice this more or get this together. So it was easy for me to do it at my own pace, and so if I had something I really wanted to get together, I could do it right away, and I could do it for hours, and I could, if I otherwise didn't want to play, I could leave it for weeks or months, and nobody was telling me, you've got to practice.
Otherwise, yeah. And so writing, something that you always did through school, and finally you were able to bring it to life, or did writing come along as, to facilitate the guitar playing and to make a song?
I actually studied jazz trumpet in school, and so my writing initially was like jazz, instrumental jazz stuff.
Tough to write on a trumpet?
It's different. It's like a voice. Like it's a single melodic line, so you have to imagine the chords, because you can't play trumpet and I mean, you can kind of do one hand of a chord and play trumpet along, but you're really imagining what the chords are going to sound like while you're doing the trumpet lines. And that developed bit by bit as I was learning jazz. The chords got more and more complex, and then I would pick up the guitar and try and figure out how to play chords that I was writing that I couldn't actually play, which is kind of backwards, but a neat way to do it.
Everyone has their own style, and it's imprinted personality. That's what's great thing about music. It is amplified, personified, and we're going to get a taste of it. We'll start off with a original acoustic number, as we tend to do here at Barbershop Podcast. What's the first one you've got?
This is called Look Up, Look Down. It's the second track on the second CD I put out this year. I have a goal of recording 4 CDs this year. So the second one that I've recorded and released is called Beautiful Day. And this is actually a song that I wrote in response to a CBC article about in Toronto, when you're walking around, if you look up, you tend to see a whole bunch of stuff that you wouldn't see otherwise. Historical, I don't know what you call those cementy things with dates in them, but you can see all kinds of things that you wouldn't necessarily notice. And especially now that we're all walking around with our phones in our hands. Just to kind of take notice of the things that are around you. And it's a great one to do with the kids, because a lot of the songs that I write for kids, I try and make, conceptually they have to be things that we can sing as a group, but that also lend themselves easily to actions or to movement.
Nice.
Method Madness all put together. And you get to hear it right here, right now on barbershoppodcast.com.
Look up, look down, look at the world around you. Look high, look low, see new things in the world you know. Look up, look down, look at the world around you. Look high, look low, see new things in the world you know. Oh, you can see birds, can you name them all? Look up high in the trees, some are short and some are tall. Oh, you can see bugs, caterpillars and ants. There's so much life out there among the flowers and the plants.
Ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da-da. 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 Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da-da. 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 Look up, look down, look at the world around you. Look high, look low, see new things in the world you know. Look up, look down, look at the world around you. Look high, look low, see new things in the world you know. Or you can see birds, can you name them all? Look up at the buildings, some are short and some are tall. Look at the bugs, caterpillars and ants. There's so much life out there among the flowers and the plants. Ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da-da. 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 Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
And that is Ben Bowen right here on Barbershop Podcast. Check us out on YouTube, but we are streaming live on Facebook. Make sure you are a fan. Follow, subscribe, all those good things. You will get notifications, and you will get to watch it every Wednesday when it goes out. I want to give a shout out to the sponsor with the monster, H&G Entertainer Services. And they're at 529-6435. Musicians can lead a pretty busy life. Some musicians will need an extra set of hands. H&G Entertainer Services help. They're not agents, they're not managers. They assist with the busy lifestyle of musicians, assist with contacting venues, booking, scheduling, social media, even taxes and bookkeeping. And for a small monthly fee, Heather and Gary do the business work so you can do the entertainment work. Call or email to see if their services are right for you. And it's true. You know, you got to get gigs. You got to do all sorts of stuff. It's a hustling, bustling, world of music. Did you set out? Because I think it's really smart, what you're doing. If you're going to have a life in music, I've always enjoyed. I mean, I love being a dad. I love dealing with kids. I love the directness. It's always analogies came easy to me. Makes me, good at what I do in writing and songwriting and to communicate with kids too. Was this something that was always conscious, or was it just kind of filtered out on its own? And
with kids music?
Kids music, because and you can't write stupid music. It has to be really good and really smart.
Yeah. It came about when my daughter was little. And we went pretty quickly through Raffi and Sharon Lewis and Bram, and then the Bare Naked Ladies put out an album. And we got, my daughter listened to the Bare Naked Ladies kids album hundreds of times. And it was good, but then when I started teaching, which sort of fell into my lap, it's a different story. When I started teaching, I realized that a lot of the kids' music that was being made wasn't music that you could sing in a group, wasn't music that was intended for people to sing together. And so I went back to the 50s and back to the folk stuff, found Pete Seeger. I mean, a lot of the stuff that Sharon Lewis and Brandon and Raffi were doing was already stuff that lent itself to group activity and to singing together. But then to realize that they were taking all that stuff from the 50s folk revival, I immediately went back to the source, if you will, of Pete Seeger. And started digging into that stuff. Yeah,
and when you dig into it, it's fascinating. Americana, Politicana, the Heartland, the Bully, the sweetness, the honesty of music, and music as an agent of change.
Yeah,
and it's important that children. They hear kind of crappy music sooner than we'd like. And it's just, I don't want to sound like an old bitchy man, but, just really uninspired lyrics.
Yeah.
And it becomes a mantra. We are the story we tell ourselves. So hats off to you for doing what you do and pursuing it. And I believe that there's always going to be a market that's going to support, what you do. And I'm glad that you're teaching. Well, I'm sure you have views about how music is viewed, supported, both in, politically and within the educational system.
Yeah.
Would you like to see it a little more focus on the arts and music in particular?
It's frustrating to watch the arts dwindle in schools, for sure. Music is supposed to be something that as I said before, that we do together. Music is something that brings community together. It's that folk stuff is often stories that are like community stories of people who have gone before, stories that bind a community together, and a lot of those folk songs are just sort of falling by the wayside. And so, I mean, some of the schools have good music programs, but I think that there is just a general lack of appreciation for how important it is.
Yeah, it's easy to do within a generation or two. It slips right off, and to see it as filler and background music and something, you aspire to have it being used in a commercial for a car company or a soda pop company. I mean, to me, that's a sadness, and we work all for the same goal, and that is to make people aware of the real, original, unique music that's out there. There's so much of it. I'm sure that's an eye-opener to you too, is just the depth and breadth of how much original music there is out there.
Yeah, it's wild.
And now we're all privy to this wonderful thing called the internet, and as much as it may take, it also gives, and it provides a way to reach out, and you'll find your people in the corner of the world. All of a sudden, you've got a group of people in Lisbon, who are fans, and holy smokes, who knows? It keeps the wonderment alive in this business, which can be a cruel mistress, let's be real about it. All right, first one we're going to spin is off of Mr. Ben. Is it your most current CD?
Yeah, so the first one I put out this year is called Let's Sing a Song Volume 1, and this is Beautiful Day, which is the second one. I intended to put a third one out over the summer, and had the kids most days, so I didn't get as much done as I thought I was going to get done.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah,
eh?
And then there will be a fourth one, hopefully just before Christmas, before the holiday. So this is the newest one, and we're playing...
Mr. Rabbit's the first one.
Pardon?
Mr. Rabbit's the first one.
Yeah. I think Mr. Rabbit is from Let's Sing a Song. It's hard because there's 4 from this year.
Gotcha.
So
Well, Gary wrote down Mr. Rabbit, and I trust Gary implicitly. So we're going to hear Mr. Rabbit.
That's an old folk song too.
It's nice. It's nice that it's done in a new folk style, and we're going live on barbershoppodcast.com.
Mr. Rabbit, your ears are so long. Yes, don't you know they were put on wrong? Every little bunny's gonna hop, hop, hop. Every little bunny's gonna hop, hop, hop. Mr. Rabbit, your nose always twitches. Yes, don't you know, 'cause it always itches. Every little bunny's gonna hop, hop, hop. Every little bunny's gonna hop, hop, hop. Mr. Rabbit, your tail is so white. Yes, don't you know I'm gonna hop out of sight. Every little bunny's gonna hop, hop, hop. 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 Mr. Rabbit, what did you eat? Carrots and lettuce from my head to my feet. Every little bunny's gonna hop, hop, hop. 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 Mr. Rabbit, your ears are so long. Yes, don't you know they were put on wrong? Every little bunny's gonna hop, hop, hop. Every little bunny's gonna hop, hop, hop. Every little bunny's gonna hop, hop, hop. Every little bunny's gonna hop, hop, hop.
That's a song called Mr. Rabbit. You can find that on Beautiful Day, which is not on this one.
That one's on Let's Sing a Song, Volume 1.
Sing a song. But you can go. You got a website, right? Ben
Yep.
Bowen.
benbowen.ca or Mr. Ben's Open Door Music.ca.com. I think I own both of them. And then the CDs are all on Bandcamp, so it's just Mr. Ben, MR Ben at .bandcamp.com.
There you go. That's the best way to go.
That's the way to go.
You know, they chew a little bit less off your butt than iTunes do, and those other people. It's a digital distribution. It's a do-it-yourself world. There's a lateral creativity that's kind of fun about marketing your own music and
for sure.
and finding your own. And you said you I don't know if you care to talk about it, but how you fell into the teaching gig. It must have been a neat story.
Yeah, it was. I've worked some really awful corporate gigs. Mm-hmm. I worked for an engineering recruiting company for about 5 years when I was married. Helped us get a mortgage, was more stable than teaching private lessons. And then did I quit right away or did I look for another job right away? Can't remember which way it went. But a job opening came up on Craigslist. I didn't know what the school was. And the same time I applied to that, I applied to a school that I knew did kids music. And I thought, well, one of these would be okay. And it happened to be the same thing. The Craigslist opening was with this school that I knew did kids music that I had just happened to email that day. So I went in and did an interview. And strangely, there were 4 other guys interviewing for the job and no women to teach like group music classes for little kids. And then the Friday we had job shadowing. And I had to prepare a song. So I ran to my parents' house and grabbed a Raffi record and did Shake Your Sillies or something. And so the Friday, the job was going to start the next Monday. The Friday I do my job shadowing and I finish and the woman who I'm job shadowing with says, well, you should probably start Monday. And I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about?
This never happens.
Yeah. So she said, I said, okay, can I have all the material you're doing? And she said, no, sorry, it's licensed to Kinder Music. I can't give you any of it. Bye.
Yeah.
So yeah, I spent the weekend with old vinyl Sharon Lewis and Bram and Raffi records and learning stuff.
Put together a set list.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. And did that for the week.
Right.
And just ran a bunch of classes having had no training, no idea what I was doing. And it just kind of stuck. I've got a lot of energy. I jump around a lot. I knew that I could do that part. I worked with kids at summer camps for years and years and years and years and years. So I knew I could do that part, and I had a daughter that I could bounce things off again.
So you were scripting your own curriculum for the most part, and they let you get away with it, which is good, right? Because sometimes we worry that there's a little too much top down naysaying, you
Yeah.
know, or people wanting to err on the side of safety. And music is really one of those things that, you know, it's nice to let go. It's nice if your kids show an interest in music, support them. When they get to bring that saxophone or that trumpet home or the clarinet to practice, like that's a real progression at a stage in life when you feel part of something.
Yeah, it's one of the real joys of doing what I do now is the freedom to be able to like write a song. I think, you know, I don't have a song about the fall right now, so let's write a song about the fall, and then the kids help me, and then we've got
self-indulgent in the least.
Yeah,
it's part
amazing.
of the curriculum.
Yeah, that's
great.
right.
All right, let's do another live one. What's next up for us?
This is called the Kitchen Junk Blues. So this is an original. We use a lot of props, like a lot of bells and shakers and sticks and, you know, all kinds of percussion instruments in the class. But I wanted to point out to the kids that they didn't actually need that stuff at home to make music. My kids have both had a really good time playing on pots and pans and all, you know, junk. So I wrote this song as a way of getting the kids to, and I actually brought a huge British Royal Mail bag full of my recycling to class every week, and then I would dump it on the floor, and the kids would pick out, you know, coffee cans or cups or whatever, and we played this song to let the kids know that it's we've kind of reified music. We make it something that experts do, and it was another way of telling them, like, you can make music any way. You don't need all of the special stuff.
Yeah. It's truly an expression, the most beautiful, and it's right here on barbershoppodcast.com.
There's so much music where I live, on cups and ladles, bowls and sips, banging on those pots and pans, on plastic bottles and coffee cans. I can play low, low, low. I can play very, very quiet, or I can play loud, 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 as loud as such a riot. There's so much music where I live, on cups and ladles, bowls and sips, banging on those pots and pans, on plastic bottles or tin cans. I can play slow, 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 but slow is rather sleepy, or I rather play fast, fast, faster. I just try to avoid disaster. There's so much music where I live, in cups and ladles, bowls and sips, banging on those pots and those pans, on plastic bottles and old tin cans. I can play low, low, low. I can play very, very quiet, or I can play loud, 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 loud as such a riot. There's so much music where I live, in cups and ladles, bowls and sips, banging on those pots and pans, on plastic bottles or tin cans. I can make so much rhythm with the tools that I'm given. Ba-da-ba, 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 ba-da-ba.
Oh, you gotta love it. I tell you. No, I mean it. You've got to love it. It's a direct threat. Support your live music scene. If you like it, share it. Put it up on your page. That's the little things that we can do. That actually, if it's a YouTube video like this show or something you see a band's, that actually affects the metrics. Make sure you put on the alert that you get the bell right there, and you'll know every week. And then once you get into it, go down that rabbit hole. There is hours and hours and hours of great original live music. There's always something happening, and it is good for what ails you. You might even know what ails you. Don't wait till you feel good. Go out when you feel kind of crappy. You'll feel good by the end of the night. Especially those places that support live music. Be sure to tell the owner or the manager, hey, appreciate that you've got music in here. Otherwise, spread the joy. Get yourself a membership or get involved. Like it's a hell of a lot of fun. It's never too late to learn an instrument, right? I wanted to ask you about that. A lot of people say that 9 or 10 years old is about the age that kids kind of have the cognitive skills to tie it together, but you teach kids who aren't even a year old yet. So
yeah, I mean, I'm teaching kind of the fundamentals, right, of music. I treat my classes as language immersion. Right. I feel like the way that we teach kids music is a little bit funny. We don't teach any other language this way. You give the kid an instrument and you put sheet music in front of them and you say, okay, now read. No other language is acquired that way. The way that we acquire language is we first hear sounds around us, and then we start babbling, and then we have basic vocabulary, and then we start to string together sentences, and then maybe we start actually reading. So I treat my classes as that basic language immersion. So we're getting fine and gross motor skills and starting to make basic musical sounds, basic language sounds. And then the fun thing is how often parents come back to class after a week or two and say, she can't stop singing the songs that we're doing in class. And watching the kids develop watching how they develop rhythmic and melodic competencies is kind of great. Even over the course of 8 weeks, you can see development.
And then obviously that's why they teach us the alphabet to a song, and so much was a musical lesson because it imprints so much more quickly and clearly. Yeah, and it's a great teaching tool, singing and marching and having a good time. All right.
Jumping and pretending to be elephants.
Exactly.
And all that stuff.
And it is. And some of the things I'll flash back to, I'll remember that. When the parachute came out, that was a good day. Damn straight. Now we're going to talk about the next one we're going to play. This is called Grow Song.
This is off the first CD. Okay. And this is a duet that my daughter and I sort of wrote together. It was one of the first kid songs that I wrote. And if she's ever at a gig, I call her up and we do this song live. It's just about, we did a lot of gardening when she was little, so it's just about helping things to grow when you're gardening, but it's a really nice duet between the two of us.
Sweet. Hope you do it right up until the point she's in her 30s.
Yeah, me too.
Me too. All right, this is a Grow Song, and this is Mr. Ben, and he's on barbershoppodcast.com.
Plant a seed, watch it grow, give it sun, give it rain, plant a seed, watch it grow, give it sun, give it rain, and then what you know, it'll grow.
Watch it grow.
Give it sun. Give it rain. Plant a seed. Watch watch it grow.
Watch it grow.
Give it sun, give it rain,
Give it rain.
and then what you know, it'll grow. And then what you know, it'll grow. Grow, 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 grow. Plant a seed,
Plant a seed.
watch it grow.
Watch it grow.
Give it sun,
Give it sun.
give it rain.
Give it rain.
Plant a seed,
Plant a seed.
watch it grow.
Watch it grow.
Give it sun,
Give it sun.
give it rain.
Give it rain.
And then what you know, it'll grow. And then what you know, it'll grow. Grow, 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 grow. Grow, 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 grow. Plant a seed,
Plant a seed.
watch it grow.
Watch it grow.
Give it sun,
Give it sun.
give it rain.
Give it rain.
Love coffee. Love that kind of that feel, the holistic feel. Are you a positive person by nature? Do you have your dark spells? Do you use music as a?
That's a really good question. I think most of my life I've been a pretty tumultuous person, and in the last couple of years have sort of discovered being present and discovered I'm a pretty content person now, but it's only since I hit 40.
Yeah.
Like I turned 41 this year, and I really feel like it was kind of 39 to now that I've just started to not be such a dark ingrate.
Yeah, it happened for me too. I think in your 20s you're dangerous because you know everything. In your 30s you're
Right.
even more dangerous because you're sure you don't know everything now.
Yeah.
And that's when we have our biggest falls in our 30s, and then 40s is really what our 20s should be. So when
Yeah.
you kind of start learning. Based on men learn through personal painful experience. We're like that, right? We don't,
Yeah, I didn't know that was a universal.
Yeah, that's universal.
It feels pretty
David
universal.
Gilmour, the author, wrote of that, and it was sense, right? Women tend to be, and girls maybe, better at the collective and believing the consensus, where boys are, they'll believe it when they feel it.
Yeah, I mean, my son is 5, and I feel like he is a very experiential learner. You can tell him something will hurt or something will have negative consequences, and he doesn't care until it happens. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. And I found that's a curse and blessing. I was always the kid who saw wet paint and would have to touch it, but I still feel that way today. It fuels a journalistic, an interest in me where I do want to know, and my life was filled with instances of being in these industries and these situations where you could look behind the curtain, and it was never what you'd hoped or what you were told it was. So it was always a point where there was like, of course. And then there was always a series where it's happened over and over where you're like, all right, I got to stop looking that way and start looking for like a personal contentment. What do I, because we all want to make a contribution. We want to leave something behind. And it sounds like this was kind of worked hand in hand, that there's this benevolent kind of acceptance that goes hand in hand with surrendering the ego that comes with music to writing a good kid song, right?
Yeah.
It can't really be about you, can it?
Yeah, I mean, part of doing kids music has been really having to let go of my ego. It's hard to be, as a grown-up, to be goofy in front of people.
Yeah.
And
Very
really
brave
silly.
thing to be silly. It's a very brave thing to be silly.
And it took a lot. It took a lot of time. Those first jobs that I had, the only grown-ups in the room would be the teachers. And they work with little kids. So it wasn't even on their radar that I was being silly, because that's their day.
Yeah.
But for me, as a grown-up, having never done that for that many kids or in front of other grown-ups, it took a very long time. And then 2 years ago, I ran classes for about 1.5 years with parents in the room for the first time ever. And that was also a really big jump to trying to get over myself and not freak out.
Yeah.
And these days, when I get parents in the room, I give the kids one rule, which is no running, because if they run into each other, it's really bad. But my rule for the parents is really participate, but I phrase it as, I dare you to out-goofy me. Like, try, because I completely let go. Like, I'm just a kid in the class, and it helps the parents too, to have an example of a grown-up who is just having fun and not worried about it.
Yeah. What a burden to kind of take off your shoulders. Always felt that's nice. You got to get a pass.
Yeah.
When you go in there, I get to be a kid again for
It's
a little
great.
while. Fantastic. All right, what's the next one you're going to do for us?
So this is an unreleased song. I worked for 5 years with Theatre Ancaster and wrote a bunch of music for them, wrote all kinds of music. I also wrote an entire musical version of Maurice Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are. And so this is a tune from that musical that I wrote. And this is right from the very end of it. So little boy Max goes to his room, turns into a forest, ends up on an island full of wild things, and they make him king. And then, as with any tale of colonialism, he gets bored and leaves again. And so this is the very end of the book, where it looks like the beasts are angry, but they're actually waving, and they're sad that he's leaving.
All right. You're going to get to hear it, all of that wrapped into a great tale, musical and otherwise. Ben Bowen on barbershoppodcast.com.
Then he smelled good things to eat. Far away across the sea, he longed to be home again. Said goodbye to his new friends. Though roaring, gnashing, making a fuss, Max sailed off away from us. We tried all that we could, knowing that it was no good. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.
It is fantastic to get it live, to get it real, to get it every week, and to hear the conviction. And like I said, you have to go back, make sure that it passes a purity test on a regular basis. What are some of the musical luxuries you afford yourself? What are some of the no, because it's when you're writing your own stuff, you feel guilty sometimes if you're not doing that all the time. But listening to other music is also really important too, to get out of the genre. Just something that kind of hit you out of the blue, and you get sticks in your CD player or whatever.
Strange. So I have a background in jazz. So I've been digging a little bit into jazz in the last little while, going back to a bunch of the late 60s, early 70s Miles stuff. But I've totally been getting into hip hop. There's a guy named Anderson .Paak who's put out 2 amazing albums. One's called Malibu and the other's called Venice. There's an independent hip hop woman called No Name who has just like a couple of mixtapes out. They're unbelievable. There's a Canadian, I want to call him a kid because he was a kid when I found out about him, named River Tiber. I think he was 18 or 19 when he put out his first album, and he's 22, 23 now, and it's like, it's all self-produced. It's really Radiohead influenced, but he's incredible. It's funny. YouTube now has really great algorithms, so I'll like punch up 3 or 4 things that I know that I like, and then just wait to see what they think is sort of the same as all that. So Anderson .Paak and somebody named Alpha Mist are like hip hop, but with trumpet in them, with like really great jazz trumpets. So they're these crazy, this confluence of all these styles. It's amazing.
Well, it is when you kind of put your guard down, and you no longer classify yourself musically. And somebody exposes you to it, or you stumble upon it. Thank God there's still, some great radio stations out there that play eclectic music.
Mohawk is great. The Mohawk radio station is amazing.
Yeah, I was always very, very proud to have that. I took the journalism course there, and it's something special when you get to do your first radio show and you get to spin music. I remember, and I pulled out a Teenage Head record that said this record was world debuted on CFMR at the time. That's what they called it. So it was their first before it got played anywhere else.
Wow.
It got played there. So I thought that was kind of cool. Local boys made good.
Yeah, yeah.
So any gigs coming up that people need to know about?
I just finished a really big gig. What I'm hoping is that once I put out these 4 CDs for these 4 kids CDs I'm trying to record this year, that I'm going to do one giant CD release. Hopefully at the Pearl or somewhere. I haven't decided where, because it's got to be somewhere that is really great for kids.
Yeah, the Pearl's are a really cool environment.
It is, yeah, and it's dry, which works. It would just have to be like a middle of the day gig.
Yep.
And I would imagine somewhere that kids can move around.
Yeah.
So I haven't decided on that. I just played the Telling Tales Festival, which was amazing, really fun. But I don't have anything coming up. I've been playing trumpet in a band called the Jeff Hudson Band. But Jeff just took off for the year to go and learn, speaking of immersion, to go and learn French in Quebec. He just took off for Quebec City. And our bass player, Jill McKenna, is in New York. She just finished at the New School of Music in Manhattan, and now she's taking a year to play.
So you found yourself with a bit of downtime.
I have some downtime, but that's good if I want to record 4 albums in a year.
It's true.
It's good.
Yeah, don't drive yourself all the way out. I got madness. All right. We're going to play another one here. It's been modified. The next one, of course, a song called Blanket Forts. Like, who doesn't love Blanket Forts?
Yeah.
I guess you get a lot of positive reaction from this song when you introduce it.
This is a song this is a song about my kids, but it's not a song that I sing with my kids, with kids in class. I'm putting it in here. It was included on Earl Kitchener did a 150th anniversary CD that they put out, and this was on there. And I decided that I wanted to put it here because a lot of the people who are listening who have these 2 CDs already won't have heard it. But it's in some ways more for parents than it is for kids, this particular one.
All right. You heard it here first. Blanket Forts, Mr. Ben, right here on barbershoppodcast.com.
blanket forts always feel like Sunday afternoon. You've kept me alive this long, and I don't ever really see that ending soon. I can't imagine living forever, years drinking meals through straw, living in a Jeopardy world in my great, 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 great grandkids' basement. Now the sun streams bright through the globes, an orb for each of us, refracting the light in the corner that soon wouldn't be mine, while you and I jostle for the right to shield your brother's eyes. While you and I jostle for the right to shield your brother's eyes, to shield your brother's eyes.
And that's Mr. Ben Bowen, a little tune called Blanket Forts, songs that make you feel, make you think. And I remember being a young man, being a big rock and roll fan, and buying my first acoustic guitar from Randall Hill down at Reggie's Music, and learning some Lightfoot and some Neil Young, and falling
Nice.
and just being almost predisposed to folk music.
Yeah.
It was even kind of before, like, I knew a little bit about the blues,
Right.
and it's a direct association with rock and roll.
Yeah.
But the way that, you know, just with that age, when you're 18, 19 years old, where it had that calming influence,
Yeah.
and that perspective it afforded me. How important is folk music to what you do?
My parents, when I was growing up, listened to kind of an odd selection. I'm the oldest, so I didn't have an older sibling whose record collection I could go and raid.
Yeah.
And my parents are British, so when we got to Canada, they really didn't know any Canadian music. So somebody gave them a Bruce Cockburn record. I think it was Bruce's first record, which is just Bruce Cockburn. And we listened to that kind of ad infinitum. But we listened to a lot of classical music, and then a lot of Beatles and a lot of Beach Boys. That was really all that I grew up on. And then when I was maybe 15, maybe 13, I had a mentor, a friend of mine at camp, who gave me a bunch of mixtapes, but they were like, the A side would be Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme, and then the other side would be Cat Stevens' Tea for the Till and Run. And so I listened to all these amazing folk albums, and it really, along with Bruce, really kind of became the fabric of who I was musically. It sort of solidified all of that.
Yeah, and somehow with the sand settling and all of that, you get the feel for what constitutes a really good folk song.
Yeah.
As different as they are, there has to be, there has to be an incredible, hook, some melody, harmony, and again, like someone who Dylan, or Neil Young could say that guy did not have a great voice.
Yeah.
Well, like country, the fact that it's legitimate, honest, truthful, and real is, I think, more important than anything.
I got into Dylan really backwards. Like, I got into Dylan because of Pete Seeger, who I got into because of kids' music. I could not listen to Bob Dylan's voice until I had heard enough Pete Seeger that I understood sort of the canon. Mm-hmm. And then there's that American folk songs, like big CD record, well, it's a CD set now, but it was a record set, and that was the thing that influenced Dylan. So when I learned that, somehow something clicked for me, and I was totally able to go. So my daughter, I gave her a CD player, and one of the first CDs that she knew all the words to was the freewheeling Bob Dylan. She knew all the words to everything on it. It was great, and she would listen to that to go to sleep.
That's a great one to start with, if you're going to start with one.
Yeah.
All right, you got one more live one you're going to do for us? What's this one?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about folk music. This is this is an old ballad called The Fox. I talked to Peggy Seeger about the difference between kids' music and folk music, and Peggy said, really the only difference is that you want to stay away from some of the bloodier murder ballads. That's what she said when you're singing for kids.
That's great.
Which is great.
Kids from a different era.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I learned this off Pete Seeger's Birds, Beasts, Bugs, and Little Fishes, because in 1955, like Woody Guthrie, he was labeled a communist. He couldn't play in clubs and he couldn't play on the radio. And so instead, he went and played kids' camps.
Yep.
But he also recorded 4 albums that year. 5? Oh, he recorded 5. Oh, I have to come up with 5. Anyway, and 3 of them were kids' albums.
Yeah.
So this was the first. That was the first Pete Seeger CD that I knew, and it was one again that was like a regular staple of my daughter's diet.
Fantastic. What's this one called?
This is called The Fox.
The Fox. This is Ben Bowen, barbershoppodcast.com.
Oh, the fox went out on a chilly night. He prayed for the moon to give him light. He'd many a mile to go that night before he reached the town. Oh, town, oh, town, oh. He'd many a mile to go that night before he reached the town. Oh, 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 oh. He ran till he came to the great big bin. The ducks and the geese were put therein. He said, a couple of you are gonna grease my chin before I leave this town. Oh, town, oh, town, oh. A couple of you are gonna grease my chin before I leave this town. Oh. He grabbed the gray goose by the neck. He swung the little ones over his back, and he didn't mind their quack, 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 and their legs all dangling down, oh, down, oh, down, oh. He didn't mind their quack, 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 and their legs all dangling down, oh. Well, old Mother Pitter-Patter jumped out of bed. She opened the window and she threw out her head. She cried, John, John, the gray goose is gone. The fox is on the town, oh, town, oh, town, oh. John, John, the gray goose is gone. The fox is on the town, oh, oh, oh. So John went up to the top of the hill. He blew his horn both loud and shrill. Foxy said, I better flee with my kill, 'cause they'll soon be on my trail, oh, trail, oh, trail, oh. Foxy said, I better flee with my kill, 'cause they'll soon be on my trail, oh, oh, oh. He ran till he came to his cozy den. There was little ones 8, 9, 10. And he said, Daddy, Daddy, you better go back again, 'cause it must be a mighty fine town, oh town, oh town, oh. Daddy, Daddy, you better go back again, 'cause it must be a mighty fine town, oh. Well, the fox and his wife, without any strife, they cut up the goose with a fork and a knife. And they'd never had such a supper in their lives. And the little ones chewed on the bones, oh, bones, oh, bones, oh. They'd never had such a supper in their lives. Little ones chewed on the bones, oh, bones, oh, bones, oh. They'd never had such a supper in their lives. Little ones chewed on the bones, oh.
It's fantastic. It's a beautiful day. One of 4 CDs, soon to be 5 now that the challenge has been put out there.
Oh boy.
When you are on the roll, you're on the roll, right? You write until the wheels fall off. And so good you've come in. So glad that you've shared what you've got with us. We're going to play one more. Last one. This one is called Spring Song. We're going to get through a bit of an ugly, hopefully not too ugly winter, but we've had an interesting good, and we celebrate summer when it's here. We've had a great fall. Winters will come, and then the spring. I saw some on the video today, and I was saying to Liv, I love the spring. I love the hope that's in there in those late March, early April days when you start getting.
Well, this is a fun one to do with the kids again, because there's lots of visuals in here. So there are lots of things that they get to be. They get to be birds, and they get to be bugs, and they get to be. Yeah, lots of things in the song. I had to rewrite it. I just performed it at the Telling Tales, and I had to write Summer's Leaving, Autumn's Here, and did a whole new verse for that. But this is the album version, so this is the spring song.
The spring song.
It's got a lot of Chicago in it, apparently, I'm told.
Well, you see that it's documented, the layers, how cool it is. It's not what you think it is. Kick back, relax, get a taste of it. It's the spring song. It's Mr. Ben, a.k.a. Ben Bowen, on barbershoppodcast.com.
Springy things have now begun. Robins lay eggs in their nests, and bugs are back, both friends and pests. Rainy days come often now. Farmers plant with seed and plow. Little shoots poke up their heads, and flowers wake up in their beds. And the sun is warm, and so are we. We play outside so joyfully. This is the spring, it's finally here. The winter's gone for another year. Winter's leaving, spring has sprung. Springy things have now begun. Robins lay eggs in their nests, and bugs are back, both friends and pests. Rainy days come often now. Farmers plant with seed and plow. Little shoots poke up their heads, and flowers wake up in their beds. And the sun is warm, and so are we. We play outside so joyfully. This is the spring, it's finally here. The winter's gone for another year. This is the spring, it's finally here. The winter's gone for another year.
You gotta love it. You gotta love music. Make it part of your life. We've made it part of our life, and we're not sad that we did. Mr. Ben, aka Ben Bowen, thanks so much for coming in.
I'm
brother.
so glad I got to do it.
Yeah,
thanks so
and
much.
it's forever.
Yeah,
It's forever
right.
on the interweb. Remember, it's out there. Share it. That's all you gotta do. Share, like, subscribe, follow. You know, no one's asking you to kill anyone yet. Gonna see you next week with the Petit Four. Fantastic group. You're gonna love them. Do our best for you guys every week. BarbershopPodcast.com.